Today's episode is brought to you by The Grange. The Grange is a full-service HR consulting service that specializes in strategic HR for small to medium-sized businesses. Whether you're just starting to realize you need HR or you feel like you're not getting bottom-line contributions from your existing HR team, The Grange can help. Your employees are the largest investment, and getting a return on that investment requires more than just compliance and a good benefit package. Contact The Grange today to get started at a price point that fits your budget. Call 435-817-7695 or find them online at www.thegrangellc.com. That's The Grange, GRANGE LLC.com. Do it right. Do it now with The Grange. Thanks for joining me today, Namon. So tell me a little bit what's been going on, and where I recently saw that you had changed your status on LinkedIn to looking for work, and so I reached out and had this idea of talking to you about that. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, what your situation is, and
Yeah. Yeah. I've been working at CompTIA for the past couple of years. They actually purchased the company I was working for before, which was called Test Out.
okay.
And great experience. Like I really like CompTIA. Um, but they got acquired as well and had a set of layoffs, and so here I am looking for new opportunities. But I think it's a good thing. I've got 14 years of experience doing UX design, and I've done some leadership. I am hoping to move into another leadership role here within UX design. And
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And CompTIA and the previous company is in the learning space, right? So you guys do like certificates and testing and different things like that. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. We call it the ed tech space, educational technology. And CompTIA is really kind of the global standard for IT certifications. And so I worked on the educational side of things, like the training side. So not the testing side, but worked on our educational platform.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Just a little bit about me. So I have been a career coach and a counselor for a little over, probably close to 15 years. I got a degree from the University of Utah in accounting, and I worked in accounting for about 13 years. I enjoyed that, but there were some things about it that I just struggled with. And at some point just as the Great Recession was starting in like 2008, 2009, I left a good job with Marriott International because I had a child who wasn't speaking in school, and we chose to come back to Utah uh, and put her uh, my in her grandma's third grade class, and it's made all the difference. It was totally worth it. But quitting a good job during the beginning of a great recession was kind of a challenge, and I learned to find jobs really well to the point that I started teaching people how to do it. So now I've been doing that for about 15 years, and I really enjoy it, and I want to take that aspect to the new level. And that's why I'm starting this series of interviews with job seekers, just giving an opportunity for them to talk about what it is they're looking for, but also give some pointers and some coaching to individuals, and make sure that they know uh, that I'm here to help them. So that's a little bit about me. I've invited you, Naaman, to share your little elevator pitch. You kind of told me a little bit about your work history and stuff like that, but I'm going to give you a chance to share your elevator pitch and talk about yourself just a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Trenton. And as I told you earlier, I feel, I struggle to talk about myself. It feels like I'm selling myself, and I'm not a salesman, so, but I'll do my best. So here we go. Um, so yeah, Namon Bills. I have 14 years of experience as a UX designer. Um, the main things that I tend to focus on, that I have focused on, are creating efficient systems to improve productivity and also accessibility. I I really try to collaborate with teams, cross-functional teams, as well as my own team to get things done. I'm really focused on crossing that finish line and achieving results. I'm also, as a designer, I'm a creative problem solver. I love clear problems and I love digging into those and trying to find solutions, testing those solutions to see how well they work, iterating, going through that whole process. So I think that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, very good. So, so tell me, what is your ideal job right now? I guess, based on your experience, what it is you're looking for. And is it something that you can step into right now? You provided me some questions that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Um, but just what is your ideal job title right now, so that those that may watch this video can know how to help you.
Yeah, so I'm looking for something along the lines of UX design lead. I want to get back into a leadership position, and I've had some additional training, leadership training at CompTIA over the past couple years as part of an organizational health champions group that really promotes healthy culture, company values, things like that. And I'm just excited about what I've learned, and I'm really excited to step into a role where I could apply that and help not only the members of my team to experience more joy and fulfillment at work, but also to help us be more productive so that we can benefit the company.
Okay, awesome. And it's only been about a year that I've known exactly what UX is. For those that may not know, that might be watching this video later, what is UX?
So yeah, UX stands for user experience, and it really is kind of an abstract concept, I think, but it's also relatively simple to understand. Um, Basically, we try to understand our customers and what is the progress that they're trying to make, right? And how can our product help them make that progress and try to find that overlap between the progress the customer wants to make and the progress our company is trying to make. And that's still an abstract description, but let me tell you a quick story that I like to tell that I think kind of explains what UX design is. I spoke with a coworker a few years ago, and she was asking the same question, like, well, what is a UX designer? Well, she worked part-time at BYU in the Marriott Center ticket office, and she ran into a situation where people, and I can't remember the details, but people were doing something the wrong way, and it kept causing problems. And finally, she went home and she made a sign that pointed them the right direction. And I told her, there you go. You're a UX designer. You identified a problem. There was a workflow that wasn't working well. It was causing problems for you, it was causing problems for your customers, and you came up with a solution to address that problem. So that's essentially what UX designers do.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that explanation because it was, we had a conference it was about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago. And there was somebody doing a presentation on user experience. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what UX is. I just never had put that together. And so It's always helpful to know exactly what it is that you do. So you've been doing a lot of design, and you've started dabbling in some leadership. And you mentioned in your questions to me, which we'll address directly here in a little bit. But tell me, what would you like to in your next role? What would you like to be different than what you've done over the last little bit?
Yeah, and over the last little bit, I've been an individual contributor. So I've been on a team and I've really enjoyed what I've done. I've enjoyed the design work. I've enjoyed working with team members. I've enjoyed collaborating across the organization. But the thing that I think I got to a point where I was very comfortable and arguably maybe too comfortable, you know. Um, I I I felt really competent at everything that I did, and I really enjoyed it. But at the same time, I felt like I had greater potential and I wasn't necessarily reaching that potential. And along with, as I mentioned, the leadership training that I've gotten recently, and I've looked back to previous leadership roles that I've had, and I've thought, I think that's where I would like to step up, and I think that I could make a positive difference. And so my hope is to move into a leadership role. And one of my questions for you is what advice do you have, on how to do that, to make that step from a individual contributor to leadership?
So first of all, I think you've begun that process, and I think it was handy that you were working for a company that provides training. That is there's certifications, and there's training for leadership, and I think that's the first thing is find any opportunity to get some leadership training and certifications under your belt. Um, Something that shows that you actually can lead. Um, as I was looking at your resume earlier, you did highlight that team that you were put on, workplace. What was that? The workplace health. Uh,
Yeah, the organizational health champions.
yes. So, um, any leadership experience that you have, uh, you want to make sure that you're exploiting that on your resume, that you're talking about that in interviews, um, because you probably have more leadership than you think you do. A lot of the times when we do our resumes or when we do our interviews, you mentioned earlier, sometimes we hate to brag about ourselves. Um, but as you look through the accomplishments that you had, which I I really appreciated on your resume, how well you highlighted your accomplishments. Not a lot of people do that on their resume. Most 90+% of the resumes that I see are job descriptions. And pretty much everything you put on your resume was an accomplishment, was something that you did as a UX designer. And those accomplishments show leadership. So being able to take what the experience you have and tying that to leadership as much as possible, that will increase your sellability of being a leader. But the second thing is, um, gaining more leadership knowledge, gaining more leadership experience. Get involved in your community, get involved in um, organizations. So find other UX designer organizations or clubs or something like that, and just find a way to get in there. Um, my my most recent 2 or 3 jobs, uh, I decided what I wanted when I was looking for work, and I found the organization that I was interested in, and I got myself so involved in that organization that it was easy for them to say, "Hey, Trenton, we're hiring. You need to go apply for the job." and it was almost a shoe-in for me. So identifying,
What
okay,
what kind of stuff were you doing for this organization? You weren't actually employed by
yeah,
them at the time.
so probably let me share my first example is with the Department of Workforce Services, which was my previous full-time job. So I worked for the Utah Department of Workforce Services for a while. And as a job seeker, I would attend every job club they had. They had in-person workshops at the time, and so I would go to those workshops. I was just there almost every day, and I got to know the people that worked there that were coaching. And at some point, I volunteered to teach. I created some classes on job search, and so I volunteered to teach those at the job clubs at DWS. I created a LinkedIn workshop, and I got invited to teach the management at the Provo DWS about LinkedIn and how it can help somebody in their job search, because they weren't using LinkedIn at the time. And so I got that opportunity to go teach the management. And it was just a matter of me finding an organization, finding out how I can get involved and constantly be in their face. I always talk about I didn't stick my foot in the door, I stuck my entire leg in the door at DWS, to the point that they knew who I was, they knew how valuable I was, and then when there was a job opening, I had several people there tell me, you need to apply for this job. And so and my current daytime job, which is with Utah State Extension, it was similar. I had left DWS to start my own business, and it was a career coaching, entrepreneurship coaching type business. And I got connected with the Small Business Development Center in Price at USU Eastern. And the director there, he and I became good friends. And as he would coach businesses, sometimes a business would come to him and say, I need a business plan, but I don't want to write it. I don't want you to help me. I don't want you to coach me on it. I just need somebody to write this business plan. And that's not something, yes, the Small Business Development Center does. So he would reach out to me and say, hey, Trenton, will you help this person? Will you write this business plan for this person? So he would refer people to me. We he knew, and he started these different clubs, entrepreneur clubs, and he would say, hey, Trenton, why don't you facilitate these? And so it was just getting to know somebody enough that I had opportunities to provide value to that organization. And eventually this job came up, and he said, and he knew my business wasn't like providing me a living, and he knew I was looking. And so he said, hey, Trenton, there's this new program that's happening. You need to apply for that job. I can't tell you more because I'm on the interview panel. So, but you need to go apply. And so just
Mhm.
finding what it is that you want, um, what organizations have that role that you're looking for, and then just connecting with people on LinkedIn, connecting with people in organizations, um, and just becoming so visible they have to tell you about the job opportunity.
Mhm.
So that's what I would suggest is, just work your way network your way into that position. And I'm sure I'll give you some connections based on this interview, and some other things that hopefully will give you an opportunity to connect with people and start doing some of that. So
Yeah, great. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
you're welcome. Let's see, what was your other question? Let me see if we can address that. Okay. So I guess, was there anything else that you wanted to learn about, going from individual contributor to leader?
You talked about some like looking into certifications, and that's not something that I know much about, particularly as far as like, oh, look at this, these
Mhm.
certifications that I have that indicate my leadership ability. Are there any, particular programs off the top of your head that you would recommend?
Well, so there's one where at the Utah State Extension where I work. I'll say probably I'll say this so that these recordings, this YouTube channel is my own thing. It's not affiliated with Utah State University, but because that's my full-time job, I'm going to offer that as a resource. Just so you know, we have a leadership. It's a remote work leadership course, and basically it's for individuals who manage remote teams. And I think as a UX UI designer, you probably have worked remote. You probably have at least worked um, hybrid. Uh,
Hmm.
so being able to manage a remote team, I think that would be a valuable course. I'll send you information on that course. Um, but I think also just reaching out on LinkedIn and just saying, hey, my next goal, my next role that I would like to have, I would love to have some leadership uh, responsibilities. Are there any good leadership courses or programs out there that people are aware of, specifically for UX designers? And just ask your network, and a lot of those will do that. Um, one resource that is available to a lot of people. So the Small Business Development Center, I've mentioned that they have a program called short-term intensive training. If you are a business, it's called Custom Fit. So Custom Fit is a program where if you own a business, and you mentioned your second question is you're considering doing some consulting. Um,
Hmm.
if there's some training that you are interested in, Custom Fit and or short-term intensive training can reimburse up to 50% in those classes, in those trainings. So if you do find a class that you have to pay for, uh, you can talk to somebody at the Small Business Development Center. And being in Santaquin, I think yours would be at the Mountain Land Applied Technology Center, if I remember right. Uh,
Okay. In Spanish Fork.
I think so. It's either that. There is one also in Orem, so it's across the freeway from UVU. Um,
Mhm.
so you go, it's almost straight across the street, across the freeway, and about a block and a half. That's where the Orem one is. But if you talk to the Small Business Development Center, you can go to the SBDC, just look up SBDC Utah online and you can find out which one is the closest to you. But you can ask them if they have those programs available to you. So that's a really, really good one, especially if you need to pay
Yeah.
for any kind of training. And they might have lists of trainings that are available for you. So
Hmm.
that's
Okay.
probably a good place to go. Um, so let's talk about that second question. You're considering doing some consulting on the side, but you don't have any idea how to get started, and what would I recommend? Um, Again, that's going to be a self-employment thing. So the Small Business Development Center is always the first resource I tell people about. Um, but tell me a little bit more about what kind of consulting you're considering doing.
So yeah, the consulting would be around, I mentioned leadership training that I got just in general, but specifically, I became Working Genius, certified Working Genius facilitator. So the Working Genius um, program or model comes from the Table Group and Patrick Lencioni, and really focuses on productivity, breaking productivity down into six kind of um, individual phases of work and looking at, in which of these phases do you find joy and energy? In which of these phases do you get drained? And how can you and your team work better to focus on each other's strengths and so that everyone is both feeling energetic and fulfilled, but also work is getting done and it's getting done faster and better. So that's the area that I would want to be doing consulting in.
Okay. All right. Um, what have you come up with? So it sounds like you do have a little bit of a program that you might use. Do you have kind of an expansion on that as far as what your experience is and how would you teach that system or
No, not yet. I
okay.
haven't I haven't gotten to that point yet. So
Okay.
yeah, that sounds like that could be a good place to start.
Okay. Yeah. I so again, the Small Business Development Center, they can help you write up a business plan. They can help you write up some ideas and stuff like that. There are some resources on SBA.gov, which the SBA is the federal version of the Small Business Development Center here in Utah. That's where most of their funding comes from. But they have some templates and some different, I have an idea. How do I start the business? So there's some different resources on there. The state of Utah also on there. I don't remember the website exactly. Maybe I'll share it in the comments or something like that when I get this posted on YouTube. But Utah has some resources where you can actually go and evaluate a business idea and look at the feasibility of it. What is it that I need to do? How can I create that? What kind of business license should I get? Um, I know, and there are people out there. I can give you some basic ideas as far as how to set up a business and different things like that. But it's probably often a good idea, especially if you're working with bigger organizations where you might feel like you need to be protected on a corporate level, to establish an LLC, an S corporation, or something like that. You don't ever want to be playing with other people's money as a sole proprietor. you know
Mhm.
a sole proprietor is basically doing business under your own social security number, because if there is a liability of any kind, they can not only come after your business, but they can come up after anything personal. And so making sure that you set up a corporate structure, an LLC, a limited liability company, something like that, so that you know that you're protected that way. And those resources I've given you, the Small Business Development Center, SBA.gov, the Utah Business website, those are all really good places to kind of help you manage starting your business. And then,
Mhm.
of course, mentors, finding a mentor, somebody that is in that space potentially. Um, most mentors, most people that are doing something that you are interested in doing, they're willing to talk, they're willing to coach, they're willing to help somebody. Um, if they don't, then move on to the next person, because there are people out there that are like, no, you'll take my business and
Mhm.
but a good mentor isn't going to have that mindset. They're going to have that mindset of, I care about this other person, and there's an abundance out there of people that need help. So why not let this person go find their people?
Mhm.
So I would say, there's a lot of helpers out there, and there are some connections that I might uh, give you additional resources as well. Um, anybody you see on LinkedIn that you feel is a good connection that I'm connected to, don't hesitate to reach out. If I don't remember how I'm connected with them, I'll still send them a message and say, hey, you need to get to know Namon. He's a pretty good guy.
Mhm.
So
Cool.
I'm always
Thank you.
happy to do that. Any other questions that you've thought of that you would like some coaching on or some
Not
ideas?
off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, I'll keep thinking about it. If I have stuff that comes up, I'll
Okay.
shoot you a message.
Okay. I am going to give a shout out to, um, and I'm connected to her on LinkedIn, but there's a lady that wrote a book called Brag, The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn Without Blowing It. You've mentioned the,
Okay.
the hesitancy to brag about yourself a little bit. It's by Peggy Klaus. Uh, I would recommend looking that book up and maybe giving it a read or a listen, because it's really the best way to brag about yourself is to be excited about what you've accomplished in your career. Being
Mhm.
able to just be excited about, oh, you should see what I did at CompTIA. There's so many cool things. And I do like your resume, how I mentioned it before, how everything that you've put on there is an accomplishment. Um, Kudos to you on that. I might respond and give you a few minor pointers on your resume, but
Yeah, that'd be great.
in general, I think it was really good. I think the biggest feedback that I would give you is to find ways to bring out that leadership, especially since that's what you're looking for. What are some,
Hmm.
you know, how did you lead as a contributor?
Hmm.
What were some of the things that you did that made this actually happen? um, those leadership skills I think are really important to bring out and highlight on your resume to make sure that that's what people see when you're applying for the jobs.
Yeah.
So um, but yeah, do you have any other questions or anything else that I can help you with tonight?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time and for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll give a little plug here. I've known Naaman probably now for probably 25 years or so. And not only is he a very smart guy, he's super creative. I'm guessing you probably painted that painting in the background.
I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So not only is Naaman extra smart and has a lot of intelligence and knowledge, he's super creative. And I think those are things that are highly valuable in the creative space, which technology and creation is a valuable commodity out there. So being able to not just think the code, but being able to think, in a artistic, creative way. And so I just think, I when I saw Naaman was looking for work and I had this idea of creating this YouTube channel and doing these things, I was like, oh, this would be awesome being able to talk with Naaman. And so for those that I'm going to share this video with, those that Naaman shares it with, those that sees it uh, from somebody else, uh, give Naaman a shout out. What's your LinkedIn? How can they find you best, or how can they communicate with you, Naaman?
Yeah, yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn and and now off the top of my head, I believed it's just name and bills at on LinkedIn. So uh
Yes, so it's the linkedin.com, it's /in/Naaman Bills.
there
So,
you go. Thank you.
yep. So, yeah, give him a shout out. I think he'd be a valuable contributor to your organization, and especially if there's leadership opportunities within your organization. Um, I think Naaman would do a great job.